Hey Rebs, welcome back to RebelWatch. With me, as always, we have
Max Certuse,
Mariah Evans.
I'm your host, Erika Dierke.
And I'm Henry Stuart.
So today we are, once again, talking all things football. It was a really exciting weekend with a close game, our first home SEC game, and a different quarterback than a lot of us were expecting. So what do we think about Trinidad Chambliss and his performance against Arkansas?
He's the future of Ole Miss football. I'm going to come out and say it right now. Let's get things started off with a bang. I think Austin Simmons lost his job, and I think that Trinidad Chambliss put on an absolute performance. 21 of 29 for 353 yards passing, 3 total touchdowns, one through the air, 2 on the ground. First starting opportunity as a Division I quarterback. He'd been at Ferris State before that, national champion there, over 50 total touchdowns there. He comes in a rivalry game in a crucial make-or-break SEC matchup for the Rebels, and he runs away with the opportunity that was presented to him.
Literally runs away.
Yeah.
Literally.
What a dual threat.
I think if you was questioning him going into the game, I think he answered every question. As an Ole Miss fan, you love to see this, a quarterback who can run and throw. I'm not going to call and toot the horn early and say that he's the future or anything, but I'm just going to focus on this one game as an SEC debut, I think, and the pressure was on and he was at home. I think he did deliver, and I'm just impressed.
Yeah, I got to go with what you said there, Mariah, about not tooting the horn early, but I am absolutely impressed. My question is, how are you going to continue to do that? Can he keep that performance up, or is it a one-time wonder kind of situation? But I do think there are some questions that need to be answered, and I think it was a great game. I think what is the most interesting thing to me about it is that he performed better than Simmons did in the previous 2 games, and with a worse – Simmons was competing against worse opponents.
Yeah.
100%.
Absolutely.
GSU and Kentucky were much worse than Arkansas. We saw a good SEC team when we saw
did.
the Arkansas game this past weekend, and that's going to be something that I think is going to be something exciting to watch going into this next week.
I know that Arkansas is unranked, but I think that they're like offensive juggernauts. I really think that Bobby Petrino has Pete Golding's number. Like, I really think that they performed extraordinarily well, and they did kind of chip away at our defense when it came to their dual threat quarterback. What are we thinking about our defense when it comes to like a mobile quarterback?
They struggled against Taylor Green. They really did. He was phenomenal through the air and on the ground. Arkansas had the 5th-ranked offense nationally coming into this game with averaging, 569.3 yards a game. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's over, that's about 1,100 yards through 2 games of football. That's impressive. And Ole Miss does have a really good defense, and they've got some names. But you're right, Erika. Bobby Petrino has Pete Golding's number. The linebackers in particular really need to stand up. The defensive line is running around trying to chase after Taylor Green all game long. They're going to get tired doing that. You can't rely on your defensive line to make plays like you did last season. That's not a slight. That's just a testament to the talent of last year's defensive line. You really need guys like Sontarian Perkins to kind of come in on the edge, help contain, and then guys like TJ Daugherty and some other guys just in kind of in the middle of the field, maybe not edge rushers, to really be able to come up and make plays and kind of play that blanket between the secondary and the rush defense.
And talk about a playmaker in TJ Daugherty. What an absolute game. He hit his career 100-tackle milestone, which is amazing. He had 8 total tackles, and he contributed to a crucial defensive stop that halted Arkansas's comeback attempt with a great strip. I think he was definitely one of the most prominent defensive players. But again, both sides of the ball, I think this is finally an opportunity for Ole Miss to prove that they are putting together their new offense. We've been talking all week, all year about this new clicking offense, and I think the key fundamentals are starting to come together. And speaking of fundamentals, I just want to say, just going back to Trinidad, what a fundamentally sound quarterback.
Oh, absolutely.
Clean checkdowns, making the right reads, and I think that this whole entire team as a whole is clicking for sure.
I think in this game I called the Heart Attack Bowl because it was such a back-and-forth game. I think Arkansas could have won because the only thing that held them back was the 2 missed field goals that they had. They had 522 yards. I mean, it was not even a real defensive game. It was some defensive stops and, sacks, and it was 1 turnover, and that what helped us win the game. But I'm saying the defense really didn't hold up as much as the offense.
I don't think that the fumble was crucial or helpful. I think it was game-winning.
Yes.
We were not going to
agreed.
win. We were going to lose. They were driving down the field. They were going to go for it on 4th down. So if we got a 4th down stop, then we could have won. But other than that, it was that turnover. And I also quickly do want to circle back and defend Austin Simmons a little bit in that I don't think we've seen Austin Simmons. I don't think we've seen the final product of him yet. I mean, he's been immobile. He's been slightly injured. I feel like Lane Kiffin has been playing him and having him run on that ankle. And I think that he does have a lot of potential, and there is the chance that, Chambliss had kind of like a Linsanity run fluky kind of game.
Yeah.
I think in this new era of college football, it's such a results. You want it right on that first game. And I do think he needs time to develop and to be that quarterback and step up and to be the man, because you are filling such big shoes, such as Jackson Dart. So I think that's super important that we do give him time.
Yeah, Erika, my question is, though, how many opportunities do we need to give Austin Simmons to become Austin Simmons, like you were saying? Because we threw this kid in the fire pretty quickly, and he came out unscathed. I mean, he did an absolutely amazing job, like I said earlier, against a better opponent. So I think it's interesting to see. But again, I will say, defending Simmons in a light, our offensive line looked much better this week.
Yes, it did.
Our center absolutely cleaned up any fundamental snap issues we were talking about the week before. I want to talk about we had a left tackle who, Diego Pounds, insane game. He was able to completely clean up any issues. He was a complete captain of our offensive line, and our offensive line was allowing those fundamental plays, those check downs, those good reads towards the middle to be completed.
No, 100%. I kind of want to go back to what you said, Max. I don't know how many more opportunities we can give to Austin Simmons. The road is only going to get tougher from here.
I'm going to say more than one, because I think he did good at Georgia State, even though they're not very good. And so I'd say like more than one, because he's only had one real chance with Kentucky, I think.
Yeah, and I think that, that's the low end of your SEC conference schedule. Things are only going to get tougher from here. We've got Tulane this week. Yeah, sure. They're, not SEC, but I think Tulane would beat Kentucky by 2 touchdowns. That is a very good team. John Summerall, the head coach, has done a phenomenal job with that program. Do your homework on him. He'll be in the SEC very, very soon. But I don't really know how much longer I can defend him, because the road gets tougher from here. You have Tulane, then you have the Magnolia Bowl, and it just continues to spiral from there.
It does get tougher, but I do think that it is moments like these that are going to be crucial for the Rebs to see who their quarterback will be, because you can't. That's a decision you have to have done by LSU, by the MAC. Those are the games that we need a definite quarterback and a definite decision. But right now, I think it's interesting, and it's definitely exciting to see a quarterback battle.
Yes.
I also don't think the decision is just up to us. Like, he is injured. Like, he is undoubtedly not at his full health. So it's not necessarily who's better, it's who's ready to play, who's ready to be the quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does anyone else have any comments about Arkansas? It was an exciting, a heart attack bowl for sure.
I think everybody is missing one key person that I think nobody has discussed. Harrison Wallace III. He had 6 catches and 92 yards, and I really think he was crucial in this win.
Shout out to Dejon Stribley, the Oklahoma State transfer. Grabbed his first touchdown as a Rebel there. Trinidad Chambliss, his only passing touchdown there, kind of at the tail end of the third quarter on a beautifully thrown ball, might I add. Big things in store for him. He's a speedster, big physical wideout. His role is only going to increase going forward.
Yeah, I got to say, too, I think that our composure was extremely good as a team overall. And 100%. I think we completely exploited the outside of their defensive backs with our wide receiver core. And it's been a great way to see how our receiving game is being developed, because now we're starting to be able to make big plays and establish that run game, take some pressure. 100%.
And we will talk about that development and that establishment later on in the show. But after the break, we are going to talk about some other Week 3 matchups that we saw in the SEC. We'll be right back.
It's that time of the year again, fellas. When the mornings are hot, the afternoons are hotter, and football is on its way back. Now, games is won by the battles fought in August. Everyone that's not revered as an Ole Miss legend has been in your shoes before, trying to survive that Mississippi heat, competing for a spot, and knowing the sacrifice that it takes to make it in this league. You go into this money collection of men from 100 different places, and if you work, you'll emerge from it as one team with one goal and one heartbeat. The SEC awaits you. And if they don't know who you are now, they will soon.
his 18th NCAA tournament appearance.
This is fun, folks, as Baker's peeling it. Little heat check. Snow Collins for three. Bring it up.
Said, I love Madison Scott.
Ole Miss Rebels are having a lot of fun, and you can see why.
Welcome back. So as these weeks go on, things keep shaking up in the SEC. It is getting more and more interesting, and we had no shortage of interesting SEC games this week, right? So I kind of want to ask you guys, like usual, what is standing out to us? What games are standing out to us?
South Carolina Vanderbilt's really the first thing that jumps out at me. The Gamecocks coming to this game ranked 11th in the country. They're at home. They've kind of looking for their first big win. They've got Virginia Tech, but they get blown out by Old Dominion, so maybe that win not looking as impressive. Now here's the thing. South Carolina gets demolished 31-7, and this is a good Vanderbilt team, mind you, but this is a South Carolina offensive line that completely failed Lenora Sellers. 3 of their 5 starters were top 25 offensive line prospects. They've got a freshman, a sophomore, 2 juniors, and a senior starting on this offensive line. So they have a little bit of experience, but not much. But these are guys that were highly touted out of high school, and they get flat dominated. The defense couldn't contain Vanderbilt, which is odd. So South Carolina runs a 4-2-5 defense, which is meant to kind of limit bigger plays. So, in theory, they're going to be able to keep the explosive ability of Diego Pavia in check. Nope. They decide to work it with RPOs, slants, drag routes, short kind of dinking and dunking down the field, if you will, and they absolutely ripped apart the Gamecocks defense. They could not stop anything kind of in the middle of the field, kind of underneath, short of the line to gain most times. Complete and utter domination from Vanderbilt. They chess matched South Carolina, and this is one of the few times I've seen Shane Beamer just get flat out coached, and to have it come from Clark Lee, who a year ago was on the hot seat. Vandy may be looking at the new head coach. Props to him. Major flowers to Vanderbilt. South Carolina really needs to get better on the offensive line.
Agreed. I think Vanderbilt completely made a statement in this game that they are a formidable opponent in this league, and that's something they haven't done in years to show. I think this is a complete franchise statement, and I think that's something that's going to be great going on.
What did we think about that Georgia game, the Georgia-Tennessee game?
I was extremely impressed with Tennessee, honestly.
Yeah.
I think this was a game that I don't think a lot of people saw coming. I think people were kind of expecting maybe a good couple first quarters from Tennessee, but maybe a fizzle out. But no, Tennessee absolutely stayed strong. Shout out Joey Aguilar, though, threw for 371 yards, 4 touchdowns, and led the Vols to a complete dramatic comeback. It was amazing. And that receiving core, I haven't seen people with that much talent. I think you're going to see a lot of those guys go pretty high up in the draft.
Yeah, I think this was an interesting game to watch on a Saturday, and you sitting down on your couch and you're like, what do I want to watch? You cut that game on and you really excited. I think Joey Aguilar, they said, well, Tennessee is all their fans. They said, bye-bye, Nico, and then they enter in Money Joey. That's what I'm going to call him because he showed up in game time. And also Georgia losing their quarterback, and he's gone to Miami. They get this new quarterback, and he's balling out, too. So it was just one of them games where, like Ole Miss and Arkansas, it was a shootout.
So Money Joey was the first SEC player in the past 20 seasons to have 4 passing touchdowns and a running score in his conference debut. And it's to the point where Kirby Smart was saying, he felt bad that they won. He felt like they were outplayed by Tennessee. That's a quote from him, and I just think that is so impressive from this Tennessee team. I think that they have a really strong start to the year.
Yeah, to have a football mind like Kirby Smart, I also saw the quote that you're referring to. He also said they deserved to win that game, and they absolutely did. That was, as much as it was a game for the wide receiving core and for the quarterback, I think that was a game that was a statement off coaching. That was extremely good coaching. The play calling was amazing. I think that game was probably one of the most exciting games to watch this weekend because it was good football. That's what I like to see is good, hard-nosed, head-to-head football.
What did you think about LSU versus Florida? Because you always have something to say about those two
Yeah,
teams.
I thought that it kind of went as expected. I figured LSU was going to come out with the victory, and Florida shot themselves in the foot again with penalties. They had 5 penalties for they only had 5 penalties for about 53 yards, but one of those was a holding penalty that called back an 87-yard touchdown. Once again, when the lights are at their brightest, Billy Napier fails to have his team prepared, and they fall flat in what's normally one of the games of the year. It's LSU Florida. They were in different divisions back when the SEC was in East-West, but they always played one another. Those were terrific games. Florida falls completely flat once again. DJ Lagway throws 5 interceptions and looks just absolutely abysmal out there. I hate to use language that strong, but this is a guy that was heralded as one of the most electrifying quarterback prospects in recent memory. And I get LSU's a tough road matchup, especially at night, but to throw 5 interceptions in a game like that, you have to be more prepared. You have to do more film. I don't understand what it is. It's bad decision making, and that's not something that we've seen from him. He just, I guess, got the yips. I really am at a loss, and that's a first for me.
I don't like ifs and buts, but I mean, like, if you don't throw all of those interceptions and if you don't have a huge holding penalty that takes back a touchdown, Florida really could have won that game. I think they are, like you said, undisciplined, and I think LSU is still completely overrated.
Yeah.
They're clearly
100%.
a good team, but third?
Yes.
Their offense looked really sluggish. It really let down the defense. The defense done got 5 interceptions. And then the offense, you only come up with 20 points throughout the game. That probably should have been a game where it was like Vanderbilt and probably South Carolina with the score 31-7 or something like that. Like, it should have been higher. You're not just going to have 20-10. So it was a letdown.
I mean, they've played a almost identical level of offense to how they treated Louisiana Tech the week prior. And the fact that you're doing that with like one of the biggest games on your schedule, that's worrying. And I'm ready for another Brian Kelly midseason collapse, another disaster class from him, and I don't have faith in Garrett Nussmeier. He is continuously being put on these big stages, and he just isn't delivering. He's not, falling short. He's just kind of leaving a lot to be desired.
So I want to talk a little more generally. What do we think kind of the sleeper SEC teams are, whether they're on our schedule or not?
And I'm glad you mentioned this because I came prepared. I have Vanderbilt because Vanderbilt has an experienced quarterback, Diego Pavez. He done filed that lawsuit, and now he's saying, I got to prove everybody that I done went to court with it. And now he has an improved offensive line. His special team is good. And then they even have these upset wins because, going into South Carolina, everybody was like, well, Vanderbilt's going to get blown out and probably swept away. But Vanderbilt came and showed, and then they cleared out South Carolina Stadium. And then I also have Auburn. Auburn is ranked for the first time since 2021. People are not really watching Auburn games, but you should be seeing what they have coming up, which is they're going to play Oklahoma, they're going to play Georgia, they're going to play Missouri. They have such a tough 4 games, which we're going to see what they're made of in these 4 games. So this weekend I probably will be watching Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, and Auburn. Thank you.
What do we think the best teams in the SEC are?
I still got to go with Georgia. Gunnar Stockton put the team on his back on Saturday. No run game, no wide receiver had more than 75 yards. Nate Frazier in the run game has been non-existent. He had over 300 yards by himself. He's been playing his heart out. He's really been playing well. An elite defense, they got absolutely torched by Joey Aguilar, but it's a rivalry game. Tennessee's looking for their first win over Georgia since 2016.
Right.
It's on the road. I'll give them some credit there. They're still an elite unit. They are by far the most complete team in the SEC, and they are going to run it back, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree, but I got to give it to Tennessee as one of my top teams. I mean, I think Tennessee right now is kind of at the top of the threshold when it comes to best teams, if that's the title you want to give them. I also want to say, they had a shaky kind of start, but Alabama did have an insane game against Wisconsin. Granted, it's Wisconsin, but I think Alabama still can't be a team that we just count out of that conversation because I think that they are going to be somebody to watch out for later on.
I'm sleeping on them.
I don't not gonna fall into the hype of Alabama. This
I'm not
is
either.
Another era with a new coach.
Dynasty toppled. We're
It's
Roll Tide, baby.
Rome is fallen.
Don't say Roll Tide.
I can say whatever I want.
Controversial.
That's fair. And we will say so many more things after our final break, and we are getting into all things Tulane. It's not an SEC team, but it is certainly something we should have circled on our calendar right after the break.
My passion is journalism. Here at the University of Mississippi, we produce a nightly half-hour newscast, broadcasting regionally on cable and globally on the World Wide Web. It's the kind of experience that is preparing me to walk into any news station in the country with the skills and abilities I need to succeed. So it's not just preparing me for the real world, it is the real world.
Do you love sports? Then you should know about STEM. Because maximizing nutrition, analyzing peak muscle performance, calculating the perfect shot, and more are all made possible by science, technology, engineering, and math. In fact, there are more careers than ever in sports science. So if you have a passion for sports, then think about getting involved in STEM and improve everyone's game on and off the field. Get inspired at shecanstem.com.
These are more than just the sounds of a safe place to go after school. These are the sounds of interest being ignited and of mentors making an impact. At Boys and Girls Clubs, we don't do just one thing. We do whatever it takes to meet the needs of every kid who comes through those doors. Because whatever it takes is what it takes to build great futures. Great futures start here.
We are rebels. For more than 160 years, we've been accomplishing the impossible, from conducting the world's first lung transplant to helping prove Einstein was right. From preserving the past to saving the future. We are Mississippi's flagship university, a place where passion and learning unite, where friends become family, where small-town charm meets world-class innovation. We are the University of Mississippi. We are Ole Miss.
All right, welcome back. So this Saturday we are playing Tulane, a non-conference team, and not to brag, but I made these little signs. So we are all going to say who we think is going to win. Go.
They're putting them up right now.
Put them up.
Well, let's give our reasons why. All right. I mean,
what do you think?
I think we got a clean sweep. It's the Rebels.
Oh.
I think this is going to be a blowout game. Blowout. Actually, I wouldn't say blowout. Let's start with predictions. We have predictions.
Yeah,
I was going to ask if we think it's going to be a nail-biter or a blowout.
No.
I think it's going to be a nail-biter. I think it's a trap game.
Look, I think you're looking at a good maybe first half of football, and then I think after that, I think the Rebels are going to kind of put it together. I mean, we saw in this last game, the Rebels' defense especially stepped it up in the second half, and if that's what you need to be, a winning team is to have a second half performance, then so be it. That's not a great team, but still, we're going to put together enough momentum to, I think, crush the Green Wave this week.
Yeah, I think Ole Miss is looking like a second half type of team. Right. And I think the score is going to be, I'm sticking with the number 31 to 7. I'm going to stick with that.
See, I have 31 to 24. I think it's a trap game. I think here's the big thing that jumped out for me is that their quarterback is the third best rushing quarterback in the country, and we just kind of got pooped on by the first. That's not like a huge difference. So I think that the defense, which they will be preparing, but I think they're still going to have those challenges they had last week that they're going to have to overcome, and I don't know if they've had enough time to necessarily overcome those, so I still think it's going to be a close game, even if that means we are going to really start upping our game in that second half.
Yeah, I got 35-13. I'm still going Rebels. I think there's a lot to talk about, and I mean we can unpack it, but Henry, of course, got to see what you got here.
Yeah, I've got 41 to 24 Ole Miss. I think it's going to be kind of in the middle. I think Tulane is really going to be able to put up a fight. As you pointed out, Erika, Jake Retzlaff is a phenomenal rushing quarterback. He is Tulane's rushing leader by over 160 yards. He's got about 280 rushing yards on the season, and has got about 500 yards of the year. So it really is a very good dual threat quarterback. Defense has got to be on point to be able to stop him, and I think the Ole Miss offense is just going to be too much for Tulane.
Yeah, he's a good dual threat quarterback, but I don't think he's half as the quarterback that Taylor Green was that we saw last week when it comes to the dual threat aspect. I think that, if our defense can stay honest with him, we're going to put him down. I mean, I think he is an impressive quarterback. You watched his years at BYU before he transferred into Tulane. I think he was a tremendous, tremendous scrambler, but I don't think that's going to be anything that can't stop the Rebels.
Are we sleeping on Tulane's defense, though? That's the thing. They're known for forcing turnovers, and they're great in the secondary. I think it's really going to be a test to Ole Miss passing game this weekend, and so I think that's something we should watch.
Speaking of, who's starting? Who should start? Who's starting? Chambliss or Simmons?
I started it out with a bang and said Trinidad Chambliss, and I'm sticking with that. I think he's the future of this Ole Miss football team. I truly well and do believe that.
Yeah, I wouldn't know if I would classify him as the future, but I say start Chambliss at this game and then see where it takes him. I think it's going to be a great productive game for the quarterbacks because if you analyze Tulane's defense, they're a very, very simple defense in terms of scheme. They don't run a lot of crazy stuff, and I think if a quarterback can read that and then situate themselves, he's going to make, I could say Chambliss, or you could say Simmons, either one, whoever is under shotgun, they're going to have to see who is going to make the most efficient reads. And this is a defense where you can do that. You can, practice your fundamentals. I say practice. You can get familiar with your fundamentals. You can get used to those checkdowns, and you can start trying to make some big plays.
I think I'm looking at if Lane Kiffin is going to do what Mike Tomlin did last year when he played Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. Do you do both quarterbacks? Bring in one for a passing situation, bring in one for a running situation, or do you just use both of them, or do you just say we're gonna go with one guy?
I was gonna bring up Leakville, Chris Leak and Tim Tebow, right? I believe Leak's senior year and Tebow's freshman year. They
Yep.
kind of had that dual quarterback thing going on. I'm sure Henry knows.
Yes.
And do you think we could try to do something like that?
I don't think it would work, and granted, this is a different example, but, I'm a college football fanatic. I'm watching football, and I'm watching Louisville and James Madison, Louisville hosting the Dukes, and JMU has 2 quarterbacks, Matthew Sluka and Alonzo Barnett. And JMU and Bob Chesney, their head coach, were kind of rotating in the 2 quarterbacks. They could not establish an offensive rhythm. It's against a Power 5 school on the road. Yeah, the circumstances are a little bit different, but I think that the fact that you don't have a consistent quarterback, cadences are different, the way you move around the pocket, the way you just the things you don't see on film, that does a lot to kind of get an offense into a rhythm. You kind of talk about your circadian rhythm when you're going to sleep. The things you do to wind down to go to bed. You mess that up and you're going to be awake all night. So I think they need to stick with a single quarterback, and I hope it's Trinidad Chambliss. If it's Austin Simmons, that's great. But if they make that decision, they need to stick with that decision and keep that quarterback in for the game.
Yeah. Sorry, Mariah.
I don't know. I like both of them. I'm not going to give up on Austin Simmons. Yes, he had those turnovers, which were very bad. I'm just going to say it. But I don't want to give up on the guy because he only had 2 chances. 3 strikes and you're out. And then if he go to 3 and he gets, worse, okay, yeah, put Trinidad in. But Trinidad had 1 game. You never know if this was just a 1-game look type of situation. And so that's what I'm saying. I kind of want to see, mix it up with both. But I do see what you're saying, that you want that consistency for the offensive line.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think to make any statement right now would be a little bit premature. What I want to talk about, though, is Tulane's offense, but I think that stems from their coach, John Summerall. Henry, we were talking about him earlier. This is a guy that led Troy University to a 23-4 record, 2 Sun Belt Conference wins. Extremely good coach, extremely talented coach, and that's why he's making such a statement on a team that's, not even in the conference.
Yeah, no, 100%. Just a quick little shout out. John Summerall is a phenomenal. He's a defensive mastermind. Had the 20th and 14th ranked defenses respectively in 2022 and 2023. Troy was ranked both years that he was there, and Troy is the kind of the perennial powerhouse of the Sun Belt. So I've seen a lot of success under a lot of different head coaches, but those defenses that he had, those were terrific. And I think Tulane is a great offensive team, but I think their strength is their defense. They forced Northwestern into committing 5 turnovers week 1. They completely outdominated. They completely outmuscled them. 4 interceptions and a fumble. They lit up Northwestern quarterback Preston Stone. So I think we really have to be careful to make sure that something like that doesn't happen again to whoever it is starting, especially if it's Austin Simmons who's playing with a banged up ankle. Yep. This is a defensive team, and their defense statistically may not seem like a lot, but they've played 2 Power 5 opponents and beaten both of them in fairly convincing fashion. So my eye's going to be on the defense for this.
Yeah. What I do want to talk about, though, is I think one of the most underrated keys of this game is going to be Ole Miss's depth off the bench, which compared to Tulane is a lot to a little.
Yes.
Tulane has almost no depth off their bench, and we have an extremely talented wide receiver core. Our run game is gaining some dimension, and I think that's going to be something to expose them on. It's going to be a hot day here in Oxford when we play them, and I think if our offense can tire out Tulane's defense, and likewise, on the opposite side of the ball, too, our defensive line has been extremely good. I think we're going to embarrass their O-line. I think that's been seen. The QB is a great athlete, but once he's stripped of that athleticism, he doesn't have much. He's not a very great pocket passer. He's not very prolific, and I don't think it's going to be, an extremely hard aspect to see that his passing game gets exposed once we get that Ole Miss defense rolling.
I agree.
Any final thoughts, Mariah?
I think this game is going to show me if Ole Miss is not just SEC contenders, but national contenders. Can you put away those smaller opponents? And I think that's something I'm watching this weekend.
I am so excited for this weekend. We'll play Tulane. We have 2 lanes to go down, either Austin Simmons or Trinidad Chambliss. I am very excited to see which one it is going to be, or both. We'll see. And we will unpack all of that in our next Rebel Watch show next Friday, as well as all things SEC and Ole Miss sports. Thank you, as always. We have been
Max Certuse,
Mariah Evans, Erika Dierke,
and I'm Henry Stuart.
We will see you guys next time. Hotty toddy.